thank you all for joining me here today. I want to make one thing perfectly clear, as I have said before. I am going to veto the tax increase that was passed by the Council 5-4 today. The clerk has 24 hours, has to get the tax agreement to me as well as the other budget amendments within 24 hours, and then I will be vetoing that. I want to make a couple of things very clear. First and foremost is that the school board and the superintendent gave my office a budget in March, which they voted for and approved, and it was that number that I put in my budget. Subsequent to that vote, the state gave them even more money than they had originally anticipated. Now, the state cut the city funding as well. We did not receive any additional revenues. At a time when gas prices are at $4 and no end seems in sight, it is important to remember the people of our city living on fixed incomes and struggling to make ends meet. Calling this a simple transfer is disingenuous. It is a tax increase at a time when the people in our community can no longer afford a tax increase. All of us in government have a responsibility to look at the challenges that we face, to do our own belt tightening, and to use these challenges as a way to become more efficient, more effective, and in fact, more creative. We have been doing that on the city side, and we have seen outsiders and independent sources urge and in fact encourage strongly the school district to say the same. My administration remains committed to education. As evidence of that, we put $1 million yet again into Say Yes in my budget package. And I will not be vetoing the additional money that is going to Say Yes for pre-K and summer camp funding. Again, at a time like this, we need to be very strategic about the investments that we make and understand that we need to change the status quo and the dynamic that exists, particularly with our public school system, needs to change. The counselors themselves who voted for this tax increase said that the money that would go would not solve the school district's problems. It would simply be a Band-Aid. We are no longer at a time when we can afford to offer Band-Aids to solutions. We need real leaders to stand up and offer real solutions. This tax increase hurts those among us who can least afford it and offers no real solution, and I dare say is not leadership at a time when this community desperately needs it. This tax increase is a direct result of the hard work that my administration did last year over the sales tax. To take that hard work and to simply say that it is a transfer and take money out of people's pockets, again, is disingenuous. For those reasons, I will be vetoing this tax increase. With that, I'd be open to any and all questions that you have.
Can you explain it in layman's terms? You said counselors are talking about it as a transfer of funds. You're calling it a tax increase. Can you explain it at a fifth grade level to us, I guess?
Sure. The counselors want to give the school district more money. And so they have said the amount of money that the county property taxes are going down in the city of Syracuse should be taken from the pockets of city taxpayers and given to the school district. Any way you look at it, when you are giving an entity in government more money, you are taking it away from somebody else. And in this case, very directly taking away from taxpayers. So city taxpayers would have to pay more than they otherwise would under my budget in order to pay for this tax increase.
What do you say to the lawmaker who's saying just fills the decrease in taxes in the county that happened, and it really would make everybody's taxes go back to the flood of December 31st?
I would say as people are looking at $4 a gallon gas, and as health insurance costs go up, and as costs across the city go up, we should be celebrating the fact that we had the foresight and the leadership and the ability to incrementally bring our taxes down, to give our people in our community who desperately need this money, more money to have so that they can pay their bills. We have in our city some of the highest unemployment and the poorest census tracts in the country. Does anybody really think that on the one hand you can say, don't worry, we're just taking a little bit of money away from these people, and on the other hand talk about the poverty? We have people who are just scraping by. The more money that we take away from them, the less likely they are to be able to scrape by. We want people to be able to take care of their properties, invest in their homes, and feel good about the city of Syracuse. as all those costs go up and we as leaders are not cognizant of those costs and say, don't worry about it, we know gas is going up to $4 and it's going to keep continuing, we know every other expense is going up, but we're just going to take this from your back pocket. It's not going to solve a problem, it's not going to help budgeting, it's not a real investment in the future. We can no longer have that kind of thinking.
Do you think that the council is just reacting to all the people, the public relations from the school district and all the people coming to the hearing and all that?
I don't know. You'll have to ask the counselors who voted for that tax increase what they're reacting to, because I can tell you that I have had discussions with them since coming into office, talking about the fact that we as a city are in fiscal crisis and that our residents are deeply in need of help and leadership. And they all individually pledged to me that they would be leaders and stand up and help us make the kind of tough decisions necessary. Yet what we saw today was an exercise when they didn't make one tough decision. They instead tried to pass the buck or pawn it off on somebody else. And I am joined by Councilor McMahon and Councilor Rayo, who were two of the votes against the tax increase. Gentlemen, if you want to join me up here. Watch the board.
What do you say to the parents who have kids in the school district who are saying, well, good, now I'm going to have 30 to 50 more teachers and maybe my class size isn't going to be so big and my kids can probably maybe be able to learn a little bit more and succeed?
Well, I think what I've said to them all along, that we in the city are committed to helping the school district make the kind of decisions that they have to make in order to upend the status quo. 50% graduation rates, continuously saying that more money is going to solve the problem, it won't solve the problem. We have seen the school district in the past 10 years have their money from the state almost double, and yet we have not seen the kind of results that we think are important to a city and important to parents and families and neighborhoods. Yet at the same time, in the past 5 years, you've seen this city, and us in particular, make very smart decisions and investments in Say Yes. We believe Say Yes is the future. We believe it's the future of the city school district, and we've made very tough decisions to make those kind of investments year in and year out in that model, which we believe is the future of public urban education in particular.
How much are we looking at tax increase?
It is 3.4%.
That's what you're dealing.
Correct.
And they need 6 votes to override.
Correct.
Have you ever vetoed anything?
I have not.
This is your first one. There's 5 Republicans here, and just politically, it's kind of interesting that you have the Democratic Council and kind of the odds. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I had Democrats who supported me as well, and from the very beginning when I took office, I talked about the fact that we were in favor of good government, smart government, and I'm pleased to say that Councilor McMahon and Councilor Rayo have joined me in our administration on votes much more often than they have not. The county executive is a Republican. I work with her very closely. I don't look at labels. What I'm interested in is good government, effective government, people who stand up for the people of this community and who we represent. So I believe labels, particularly at a local government level, are not important. What I believe is important is responsibility and leadership.
You said that you will support the 2 amendments to add funding for Say Yes and to TNT, and those are based in part on anticipated higher revenues from the dome. Or is that number that was on the amendment, is that from the negotiations? Is that where?
I think that number that is on the amendment is a goal, and in discussions with the people who voted for those amendments, I thought it was a goal that we could reach.
But have not yet reached.
Correct.
And you're also taking away $100,000 then from the police department.
The people who voted for that also voted for that amendment as well.
The recruiting.
The recruiting line.
Is it? What does that pay for?
Recruiting. We just had a class that just got hired, and the anticipation is that there probably won't be another class
Okay.
on this year's one, so it was an area that made sense.
Okay.
You know, just to touch on some of the mayor's points, though, as far, this administration throughout the year has worked very diligently with the school district to save money in many ways with purchasing departments, looking at consolidation efforts with technology and IT. So the relationship is there. And just to remind people, the budget that the superintendent sent over to the common council, he didn't ask for an increase in revenue. So he walked out today with money that he didn't ask for. So I think the charades that we saw from the council level last Wednesday, where the school district misled our constituents and their parents about the fact that the common council or the mayor is cutting funding or whatnot. This isn't our budget. This is the superintendent's budget. He's making the decisions on where to cut, and it's our job to try to restore it in a targeted fashion to make sure the money goes where it needs to go, because over the past 6 years since I've been on the council, we've clearly seen that the money doesn't get to where it needs to go in the classroom. It goes to pay for higher pay raises or superintendent salaries that make more than the governor of New York State, time and time again. So I just, I fully support the mayor vetoing this tax increase. We need to look out for our vulnerable, which includes our senior citizens also. It's our kids and our seniors are really, the focus, and you can't rob one pocket to pay the other, rob Peter to pay Paul, especially if Paul's going to go take the money and spend it somewhere where it doesn't even, go where it needs. So, I think when you look at the idea of raising taxes to go to a specific cause or to just the school district, you got to look at the track record of where the money's gone when they received it, and the track records, there's serious reforms that need to be made, as far as funding formulas and whatnot. But again, just look at the pay raise, or what they're calling a concession from the teachers union. They were getting 4% this year, a number that they knew they couldn't get, and instead they're getting 2.5%, which at face value looks like a concession. But when you look at the fact that they extended the contract at 2% incremental pay increases, really their savings this year are just going to be squandered next year, and we're going to be looking at the same song and dance. So, we need real reforms at many levels in city government, but the school district needs to look within also at reforms to really try to get our schools performing where they need to, so we're competitive.
Let me just add to Councilor McMahon's comment that the easiest thing in government is to say yes to people. The easiest thing is to tell people, yes, we're going to give you more money, we're going to give you all of this. We are in an unprecedented time in government, where we need to be able to say no. We need to explain why we're saying no, because the resources just aren't there. And it is not an act in leadership or one that is fiscally responsible to simply raise taxes, admit that it's not going to solve the problem, engage in no meaningful reform, and then walk away and pat yourself on the back. We just can no longer have that kind of decision making.
Anyone else?
Well, maybe, Ryan, maybe you could talk, to overturn the veto, they need 6 votes. What do you think is the likelihood of, the council actually getting, picking up another vote for this? I don't know, if
Well, I'm sure there's going to be tremendous pressure on some of the, my colleagues that voted no today. But overall, I think the 4 councilors who voted no to this saw good reason and wisdom why they didn't support the tax increase. And mind you, this whole idea that it's a transfer from the county levy to the city, it's just a farce. The county budget starts in September, so who's to say that the county budget's going to have the tax rates where they are now, or are the tax rates going to change to help offset some of the increase the suburban towns have seen? So, the reality is, this doesn't make sense. This wasn't a transfer; it was a tax increase, and I'm sure that you'll see special interest groups, out trying to do some arm twisting. But I know that myself and Councilor Rayo, Councilor Hogan, and Councilor Seals will hold true to our convictions and really look out for the city as a broad, but not just one specific segment of the city.
Thank you all very much.